We're really excited for our content today and all of you for joining us. Again, a great shout out to all of our community partners with Local First and all of our CBDCs and Yavapai College, all of our groups. We're really excited to have all the content being delivered through this platform. For a little bit of information, the Small Business Bootcamp is prepared for small businesses to really emerge from the COVID crisis stronger than ever. This is a statewide initiative supported by our community partners. We're running this for 6 weeks, and it's also including a resource collective, so please do check that out. We'll give you a little bit of information on that. This week has been great. We've had alternative funding sources on Monday, negotiating relief and landlords and utility providers yesterday. And today we're going to talk about how to cut costs and manage cash flow, which is a super important topic for us to prepare. We have office hours on Thursday and Friday this week. We are making an adjustment to our schedule next week. We will be including content on safety for businesses starting on Thursdays going forward. We're really excited about that. We have a great partnership with the National Safety Council and our Arizona chapter. So every Thursday at 9 a.m. and we're adding another 3 p.m. for business safety, emergence, and other issues on Thursdays. We'll get more information as we start to move along. Just a quick, very quick update. As of yesterday, excuse me, May 5th, 128 million has been remaining in the PPP round. So we are encouraging everybody, if you have not put in your application, please do so. If you have any questions, there's really great information on our website, azcommerce.com/COVID, on PPP and other activities. And please do look at our Small Business Bootcamp sessions on PPP. We've done a lot of work in trying to get the word, what the text and other resources are for that. So far, we've had 44,000 businesses in Arizona receive approvals for loans, which represent $3.7 billion. This puts us at about a top 15 in the country. And then, as most of you are aware, on Fridays, salons and barbers shops open, and on Monday, restaurant dine-in open, and we'll be getting more information on spas and gyms and pools. The resources on the ACA website and others, please check out the CB sites. They're fantastic. Also, our Arizona Work liaise with workforce. We're going to be doing a lot more interface with those activities. And also for manufacturing, we've got a wonderful MVP program for manufacturing and a group with that. Thank you for that. So please check us out on azcommerce.com/COVID to find out more resources. For today's speaker, we have Karen Eads, which is a CBDC advisor based in Yavapai College. We're really excited to have her give us all information on cash flow and cutting costs and some of the strategies that you want to be thinking about to make sure that we're all on a great business basis. And without further ado, Karen, I'll hand it over to you for your sharing and appreciate your time today.
Good morning, thank you. Get my screen up here. So I'm here this morning to talk to you about cutting costs and managing your cash flow. Cash flow is really important to businesses. Let's see if we can get this going here. There we go. In every business, this is actually a slide from our partners, Cashflow Tool. This gives you some stats about why cash flow is important. 61% of small businesses struggle with cash flow. 82% of business failures are poor cash flow management. So it's really important to understand how to project your cash flow and what that means. 69% of small business owners have been kept up at night by concerns about cash flow. And 43% of small business owners have been at risk of not paying employees by paydays. And I know that's really scary. I've had clients actually been in that position, and it's a really tough spot to be in. So I want to talk today about forecasting cash so you can project some of those shortfalls in the future. So one thing to know is your bank balance is not your cash flow. Your bank balance is what you have at the bank at the time, but your cash flow is really the ins and outs of your cash throughout your business life cycle. So the most important thing is to be prepared. You want to know when you need cash before you actually need it. And prioritization is really crucial to cash flow management. You need to understand what is are necessities and what is discretionary in your purchases. First, let's talk about the inflows of cash to your business. I want to talk about maximizing income, and there are several ways that you can do that. I have just a few listed here. One would be offering discounts or sales to reduce older or slow-moving inventory that you might have in stock. Another is to sell gift cards or certificates. So this is a really good way to get cash in the door right away. A good example of this would be Starbucks. So Starbucks does this really well. They have that reloadable gift card that you can purchase. You can get that loaded up and then use that for future purchases. Well, it works out really good because they get that cash up front, right? For purchases that are going to be made later. Gift certificates, the same thing. Now that's Starbucks. Restaurants can do that for meals. Any events can be prepaid for so that cash gets in the business sooner. Salons can actually do the same thing. They can offer some type of a card where maybe you get 5 services, 5 haircuts, and the 6th one is free. But when those things are prepaid, that's income coming into the business now for future purchases. The other thing you can do is expand or pivot your business by offering new products or services. So for example, I know a lot of restaurants have moved from, they were dine-in before, but now they're doing takeouts or maybe curbside pickup or deliveries in some cases. So that's a new way of doing work for restaurants. Additionally, some companies have actually started making new products. So, we're aware of a tent company, and there's actually a tie company, a men's tie company in Denver that has pivoted and are now making masks, right, to go with their ties. So, because of this crisis, they're just looking at new ways to get new business in. Another thing that you might want to do is review your products as well as your pricing. So you may want to, as a restaurant, you may want to consider paring down your menu a little bit, focusing on those products that are most popular. The other thing is you also might want to look at your pricing. I know raising pricing, is not a good thing always, but it's good to do the numbers and make sure that what you're offering to your clients and your customers is the best way to maximize your income. Another thing you can do is work with your customers to schedule past due accounts receivable payments. So just like you may be struggling to make some of your payments to vendors, are looking to negotiate with them for payment terms, your customers may be in the same situation and not be able to pay their bills on time. So take the time to work with your customers, maybe put some payment schedules together, but just see how you can work with them so that you can get some of that income in. So let's talk a little bit about reducing and managing costs. First thing you want to do is really prioritize your costs. Know what is really necessary and know what's discretionary. So this is really looking at your P&L and going through what are you spending your money on and what could potentially be pared down or actually eliminated. So I would categorize necessary costs as those that you have legal obligations for. So, you have a lease agreement, you need to make your payroll, insurance, taxes, and I would just note, for taxes, one thing you want to remember is if you're a retailer, TPT taxes, you're collecting that money, but you have to pay for it, pay it back later. So make sure you're prioritizing that. Utilities to keep your facilities up and running, any loan payments that you have, and then vendor payments for inventory or services that you're getting. On the discretionary side, I would classify marketing as discretionary, but I would also classify it as essential. And in some cases now, more than ever, you may want to increase your marketing. You may want to let your existing customers know that you're open for business, that you're following the guidelines that are set forth now because for safety and health. Make sure that everybody knows that you're following those, if you have changed hours. Those are all things that you might want to make your existing customers aware of. Additionally, you might want to increase your marketing to attract new customers. So while it's discretionary, I think it's essential. Travel and entertainment is definitely an area where you have an opportunity to pare back your costs. So I would look at that. Subscription services, whether it could also be, if you're a member of an organization and you don't want to continue that membership right now, you can do that. Subscriptions to different types of magazines or things that you don't absolutely need, but you're paying for on a regular basis. And then I would say some services as well, maybe paying for cleaning services, lawn services, things that you might be able to actually do yourself. I would look at all of those costs as well and really prioritize what you need to spend your money on now. With that in mind, you want to eliminate whatever unnecessary costs you can. That's going to be really important for your cash flow. And then you want to account for any new or additional costs that you might have. So think about this new world that we're living in. We have to sanitize and disinfect our offices, our retail shops, our restaurants. You need to account for what that additional cost may be. You may need to bring in additional cleaning services. Those things you want to look at and account for when you start to put together your cash flow projections. The other way to manage costs would be if you have high interest rate credit card balances, look to move those to 0 or lower interest rate cards. That's an opportunity. As well as you want to focus on paying down your higher interest rate credit first. That will help you reduce your overall interest expense that you're paying. Other ways to manage your cash flow. You can sell assets that you no longer need. So if you have furniture or fixtures that you're no longer using, why hang on to it? Sell those assets, get that cash in the door. That would be very beneficial. You may want to consider leasing versus buying. If you have, say, computer equipment that you need or different, even anything that you can lease. By leasing it versus buying it, you're not putting out the cash for the purchase. So a lease may make more sense right now. Managing inventory. You may want to utilize just-in-time strategies, right? So get your product in when you absolutely need it. So you're not sitting on a lot of inventory, have it delivered right in time. You may want to consider drop shipping directly from vendors as opposed to taking that inventory in. Those are opportunities. As well as I would also say that now's the time where you might want to consider deferring any type of capital expenditures, any large amount of cash that you put out. You want to defer those for a while so that you have more cash in your business now. Speak with your vendors and your lenders about payment deferrals. I know some SBA loans, right? The payments have been deferred. So if you have accounts payable that's past due and it's in your best interest to work with your vendors to try to get on some kind of payment schedule so that you can work through that and manage your cash a little better. Maximize your payment terms, right? Pay with AFT whenever possible and pay your bills on the bill's due date so you've got that money as float for yourself. You're not paying ahead of time. And then if needed, secure short-term credit now, so if you need it later, you have it. Because that's going to be important as we go through the actual cash flow forecasting. You'll be able to see when you're short of cash and you need to find ways to get that cash into your business. And one way to do that would to have short-term credit available for you. The other thing that you want to think about doing is budgeting for SBA loan spending. So many of you may have applied already and maybe even have received monies for the SBA loans that have been put in place for the COVID-19 disaster. So there's the economic disaster loan. There's an advanced part of that that is forgivable, but if you've actually taken the loan, you want to make sure that you're accounting for those loan payments that you have to make in the future. For the Paycheck Protection Program loan, you want to make sure that you're tracking any forgivable payroll and other expenses that you can use so that you have a forgivable portion, you don't have to pay that back. So that's going to be really important. You need to spend 75% of your payroll within 8 weeks after you get that money, and you need to track that, as well as the other 25% can be used on specific expenses. And there's actually an ACA bootcamp webinar on that will be held on Monday, where we will go over more of the forgivable payroll rules and how you can best track that. And then there's also the Express Bridge loan that was available, and you want to make sure that you're accounting for that spending as well. So those are all loans that when you put together your cash flow forecast, you want to make sure you can include those so that that is part of your forecast. So preparing a cash flow projection. It's really important to keep your books up to date so that you can do these projections when needed. I recommend doing a cash flow for at least 6 months out. This is really important for seasonal businesses because you're going to want to see what your cash flow looks like through those different seasonal cycles that you have. You may even want to go out to a year for your productions. And I would also say in the times that we're in right now, since a lot of businesses are really tight on cash right now, you may even want to consider going to weekly cash flow projections, just so that you're staying on top of this. And while this is something we're talking about because of the crisis, this is really an activity that all business owners should be doing on a regular basis. This is not in response to this crisis that we're in. This is good business cash management that you should be doing all the time. And this is really about planning for cash shortfalls so that you can take action before they actually, before you're actually out of cash. On a more positive note, as your cash flow increases and your cash balances increase, you can also see when you'll actually have extra cash to invest more in your business, or maybe introduce a new product line, or maybe invest in some capital expenditures that you've been holding off on. These tools will allow you to do that. So the cash flow projections and the forecasting of cash flow is very important. This is just a template that I pulled off of downloaded from the internet. This is actually by one of our SBDC business partners, Profit Mastery. But it's a template that you can use that shows how to budget your cash or to produce a cash flow projection. And as you can see, it includes all of your cash inflows. So what are your sales, your revenues, and maybe any cash that you may have brought in from selling some of those assets that you no longer needed. And then it also includes all of your cash outflows. So your accounts payable, what are your expenses, and then any loan or debt payback that you have, that's all included in there. So the net of those are going to show you what your cash position is for each month. And then you'll be able to see if you're short, you may want to draw on a line of credit to bring yourself back up to that, so you have enough money to cover your expenses. But then, or you may want to look at I need to do something else to bring in more revenue or reduce my costs even further than what I've done. So, as you prioritize those things, you'll be able to see when you need to take action ahead of time, which is really the key here. You want to know about any shortfalls before you get there, and you can be prepared and you can plan. The SBDC also has, we have a really great relationship with the ACA, but we also have relationships with other vendors and that provide resources and tools for us to use with our clients. We have a relationship with the Cashflow Tool team, and what they provide is this really nice cash flow software that can be utilized. So if you're a business that uses QuickBooks for your accounting, this tool is really neat because you can actually download your information right from QuickBooks into this tool, and this tool will allow you to do your cash flow projections as well as do a lot of what if scenarios. So it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use, and it's available to SBDC clients at no cost for 6 months. So as you're working with us, we can actually help you do those projections. So this is a tool that's available that can help you with your cash flow projections. We also have a relationship with our partner Palo Alto Software, and they have a tool that we use for business planning called LifePlan. And that tool allows a business owner to actually create a business plan in addition to creating a forecast. So that forecast, once you have that created, the tool will actually create a P&L statement for you as well as a balance sheet. And in addition to that, it gives you a projected cash flow. So as you're building your forecast, you can see what your cash flow will look like in the future from the information that you put in there. And this tool actually allows you to build multiple forecasts. So you can look at how your cash flow will differ between those different forecasts. So it's a really good tool to use. It's available with for us to use with our clients. So I wanted to just let you know about that. And I just want to kind of recap what I talked about, because there's a lot of, the mechanics of putting together a cash flow projection is really all dependent on all the inflows and the outflows that you have collected from running your business. So, looking for ways to maximize your income so that you get the cash in the door as soon as you can, reducing your costs and managing your costs. So, where can you cut back, being clear on what your priorities are, making sure that you're minimizing any costs. The one thing I didn't talk about when we talked about costs that I also want to bring up is you have to take a really strong, hard look at your payroll right now and, decide what level of employees you really need. That's another opportunity where you can really manage your costs, because payroll is such a big cost for a lot of our businesses. So that's something else that you're going to want to look at. Secure short-term credit if you need it. That way, when you need cash, you have it available for you. Identify additional ways to optimize cash flow. Budget and track for that SBA disaster loan that you received. Make sure that you have that accounted for in your budgeting and your cash flow projections. Prepare your projections for at least a minimum of 6 months, if not longer. And if you're really short and tight on cash, think about doing it weekly. It's good to have that information available so you can take action. And then finally, contact your local SBDC office for tools and guidance on cash flow management and forecasting. That's what we're there for. We're there to help you. And we have a lot of tools available to help you with your business needs. Other services that we provide our free confidential counseling on all areas of your business. It could be marketing, it could be financial planning, preparing to go for a loan. We can help you with all of that. We offer workshops just like this one. We have a local partnership with chambers of commerce, economic development departments. We have a huge network of resources, not only throughout Arizona, but throughout the nation. We're all connected, so we have a lot of resources available for us. And we have access to SBA and microloans. So we're available to help you. I just want to encourage all of you, there's so many resources out there right now to help small businesses. And a lot of them are no cost. So, you know, I would take advantage of them. We are all out here to help you, and we want you to succeed and make it through this rough period. So I want to thank the ACA for inviting me to participate in your boot camp today, and thank all of you for your time today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was really great. We're going to move into the Q&A portion of this. And so if you do have questions for Karen about kind of cost management and cash flow, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, or you can use the chat window. And while you're putting in those questions for Karen, we also have Robert Theobald on the line, who's our small business ombudsman, and he can answer questions related to PPP or EIDL loans. If you have questions about that as well, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. While we're waiting for some of those questions to come in, I can start. Robert, I don't know if you're on the line, but I'm wondering if you have any kind of updates about EIDL or PPP that you've heard, things that you're hearing, questions that you're getting.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. One of the big things, and Andy mentioned it in the updates, that as of yesterday afternoon, there's still about $128 billion in the PPP plan pool. And so if you are waiting in line with a large bank and you haven't heard from them, you know, the communication's not been well, please reach out and we can try to direct you to some smaller banks that seem to be a little bit more agile in their processing of the loans. The EIDL loan has been opened up for agricultural businesses. So if you have a qualifying agricultural business, that option is also available to you. So be aware of that. Those are the big updates for right now on both those programs.
Great, thank you so much, Robert. We have a question, Karen, around the SBDC Cashflow Tool, the free tools that you mentioned. Do they need to get in contact with you? Do they go to your website? Is it a partner site that they can go directly to?
So I would recommend contacting your local SBDC office and making an appointment with an advisor, and they can work with you because they have the tools that are available to help.
Great. Here's a good question about kind of open supplier purchase orders, work that hasn't been finished. How are they considered from a cash flow perspective? They're not an invoice, so I wouldn't think it would be a receivable. Yeah,
it's not a receivable. So, I mean, there's open POs, but they haven't shipped yet. Is that how I'm understanding? If I understand it that way, I mean, it's cash that will go out later, but it's not an invoice that's due right now. So you might look at it as a future debt. Would be one way, because you know that's something that you're going to have to account for later in the cycle.
Great. Thank you. A question, if we have an asset that we can take an impairment against that typically wouldn't be subjected given the COVID-19 concern, would we be able to use this amount as non-cash to increase our cash flow? Or does journal accounting of debits and credits only from cash flow from operations the main calculation? And Karen, these questions are in the Q&A if you're like me, more of a visual learner.
Okay. So that one, I'm just going to say right now, I am not an accountant and I really don't feel qualified to answer that question. So I would talk to your accountant.
And well, Karen, that's a good question. You mentioned the free confidential counseling from SBDC. Does that include accounting counseling? Is that a resource
we are not accountants and we are not lawyers, right? So, but we can advise, you know, where we can, when we feel that a question is something that needs to be answered by a professional, you know, we will direct you to a professional. But I personally am not a CPA, so I don't feel qualified to answer that question.
Great. And we've had a few questions come in about where can we register for future sessions. I've put in the chat window the Arizona Small Business Bootcamp link. And on that site, you can register for future sessions. Like Karen mentioned, we're going to be doing kind of a post PPP tracking session next Monday. You can register for future sessions on that site as well as watch past sessions. We record all of these webinars. And so if you're interested in seeing one that we've already presented, go ahead and that's at the bottom of that page. I'll repost the link in the chat.
Thanks, Mark. And I just wanted to make a note also that will be updated for the actual content, but you can be assured that Monday is dealing with individuals and companies that have gotten PPP and what they would do next for applying for the forgiveness. We'll update that website, but you can also use that for your registration as well. Thank you.
Okay. I also see a question here about someone's looking for a $100,000 loan. Do we offer them? So at the SBDC, what we can do is we can help you prepare to go to a lender to apply for a loan. So we have access to SBA and microloans, and our advisors are, you know, more than willing to help you sit down, help you with your business plan, and get prepared. We have a checklist for when we go into a bank of all the things that you need to be prepared for when you want to apply for one of those loans. So we can all help you with that.
And Karen and Robert, we have two questions on EIDL grants in the Q&A. Robert, I don't know if you want to look at those.
Yeah, let me see. Can you read those, Mark? I'm not seeing them on
Yep.
my end.
The first one is, does the EIDL need to be paid back?
The EIDL loan does need to be paid back. It is a loan. And if you get the EIDL grant and a PPP, the amount of the EIDL grant will be taken out of your forgivable portion of your PPP. So there are some small nuances with that, but the EIDL is a loan. The grant on the front side is said to be forgiven, the advance, but if you get the EIDL loan, it is a loan.
So Robert, that kind of ties into the other question that's in there. I don't know if you saw that and we're answering both, but for that EIDL loan, the $10,000 grant, should we decline that grant if we got the full PPP loan and the $10,000 EIDL grant wasn't deducted from it?
So the EIDL grant won't be deducted from the loan. It'll be deducted from the forgivable portion when you go to apply for forgiveness of the PPP. That would be your choice if you carefully track your information when you're applying. Then again, that you can't have the forgiveness from both, but if your PPP loan forgiveness portion you're asking for is significantly more than the grant, then that grant amount will be taken out from the EIDL. It can get complicated, but definitely track with detail all your spending from the day you received your PPP loan for the 8 weeks and longer to make sure you can get the proper forgiveness.
Karen, I'm wondering if in your experience around kind of cash flow, cost reduction, you have those great stats about how common those concerns and issues are for small businesses. Do you see any kind of patterns of pitfalls that small business owners fall into with their cash flow? Is it a certain expense that they don't look at, or is it action not taken fast enough? Or wondering if you have any kind of guidance for people on the call.
So one of the things that I've seen is, first of all, just somewhat of an overall lack of knowledge around just the whole bit around financial management, right? seen a lot of clients really rely on their bookkeepers and to explain their finances. So really making sure that you understand your P&L, understand your balance sheet, and understand your cash flow. That's what I see a lot of, is just a lot of, entrepreneurs are into their products and their services that they're providing, and it's the financial side sometimes that they need help with. So that is one of the things I see. And then, just not understanding what all of your costs are, really being clued into what are you spending your money on? I have clients that when we, I work on QuickBooks, we go through QuickBooks and we look at some of their statements, and, they have all these purchases and they don't even remember what they bought. So it's like really managing your money well is, those are some of the things that I see. It's just lack of understanding or lack of knowledge around financial planning altogether, and then really not having a good grasp on what costs are.
Awesome, thank you. Robert, we've got another question in the Q&A around EIDL. I received my EIDL loan first, then received my full PPP. Will someone contact me about repayment of the EIDL, and if so, who?
You should have been contacted from a customer service or from a loan officer from the SBA regarding the EIDL loan. However, there was just some issuance given to the lenders from the SBA on how to, you can use the PPP loan to pay off the EIDL loan if you choose to do that. And there was some guidance given to the banks on how to help process that. But if you haven't heard from the SBA regarding your EIDL loan, but they deposited the loan amount in your account, you may want to reach out with them to make sure everything is correct and that you've signed the promissory note and that the loan was done properly.
And Robert, you might have been answering this other question. So there is someone on the webinar who didn't receive a promissory note from the EIDL, but did receive a direct deposit. So is that someone who should be reaching out to the SBA?
So the direct deposit may be the advance, the EIDL grant. Again, that's up to $10,000. It's based on $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. So that direct deposit may have been that advance. And then you should be hearing from how they're telling us the process works, is you should be hearing from a loan officer regarding the loan portion of it.
Thank you. And there's another, oh, go ahead.
I'm going to post in the chat box the customer service number for the SBA for the EIDL program.
That's great. There's a question in there, recommended sources for searching for applicable grants for specific small businesses. So supporting historic sites, girls camps, children's programs, rec programs, educational programs. I'll start by saying part of this kind of boot camp is also the resource collective component. So I reposted the link to our website again, because we're going to be sourcing a lot of the resources available from partners across the state. Some of those might be loan or grant opportunities. Some of them might be more educational programs, more webinars, things like that. But our goal as this continues to grow and build is to continue sourcing those for you. That's not going to be entirely comprehensive because there's so much out there. So I also want to ask Karen or Robert if they've heard of other sources for searching for those applicable grants or loans.
Not those specifically. I mean, there's USDA grants, that are available for some businesses that they can apply for. But for those, other than that, I don't, not off the top of my head, not specific ones.
The one I think of is grants.gov. That's where all the major grants are posted. There's so many small ones that pop up here and there. I was just reading a Business Journal article this morning about some grants that may be popping up in the valley, but it didn't have the the links to when those will be released and what community. It listed some of the communities, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, had some grants or loan programs they're putting together, but it didn't have the details yet. And so those types of programs, when they come out, they go quick. And so you just have to monitor those websites, but they didn't have the websites listed from what I could tell. But there's grants.gov is one of the main ones. And then sometimes different organizations have links to different grants.
Great, thank you. And another PPP question. I've heard this a few times, so I know this is on people's minds. We received our PPP funds very early, but based on changing guidance, we could have received about 25% more. Is there any way to apply for additional funds?
I haven't seen information on that. I would reach out to the banker that you worked with and see if they can make adjustments to that. But it'd have to be through that bank, and you'd have to contact the bank directly and see if they can do that.
Thanks. And I'm seeing in the chat, Local First Arizona also has some grants available or listed on their site, and then Salesforce has grants available. So those are also places where you can search. And Karen, I know that you'll be joining us on Monday, and we had some people asking about kind of where to register for that session. Do you want to give a quick overview of kind of what you'll be covering on Monday?
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about on Monday is really, the rules around, to the best of our knowledge that we know of them today, the rules around what you need to spend your PPP on, and then how you need to track those disbursements that those payments that you make with those funds, and then the documentation that you should have available so that when it comes time to apply for forgiveness, you have all that information ready and at your fingertips. So that's really what we're going to go over on Monday.
Thank you. And so if you are interested in attending that, go ahead and go to the AZ Small Business Bootcamp website, and you can register for that now. We're also going to be sending out some notices and emails to all of you in the next couple of days with next week's lineup, and you can register directly from that email. Julie Engel, I see you have your hand raised. I don't know if that's intentional, but I can unmute you. Oh, no, the hand raise went down, so maybe an accident. Any other questions for our panel? You can throw it in the Q&A box or the chat box. Well, fantastic. If there's not any more questions, I'll leave this open for a few more minutes in case people have questions. But I want to give a big thank you to Karen, our speaker today, to the SBDC for being such great partners. And thank you to everyone who joined the call. If you do have topics that you're interested in having presentations on, that you want to learn more about, that you think we should be covering, please leave those suggestions and that feedback in the chat box. We are looking at that to help determine future content. So let us know what you're looking for. And I also want to remind everyone of the quick structure change. So this week, we've got office hours Thursday and Friday. So if you have specific questions about your business, about any of the topics covered this week, if you want to talk more about PPP or EIDL, feel free to register for tomorrow and Friday for office hours. Starting next week, there's going to be a slight change in the schedule and kind of format. So Thursday will be an additional content day. We've had so much great content come our way, so many requests for great content, that on Thursday next week, we're going to be having a session on safety, preparing your business to kind of reopen safely. What are the guidelines? What are best practices? What is the CDC saying? And so office hours next week will only be on Friday. Monday through Thursday will be new content. So if you have recommendations on how you want to fill those content days for the future, topics that you'd like to cover, if you'd like to register for office hours, go ahead and go to the website. And our new format going forward will be content Monday through Thursday, office hours on Friday. We had one more quick question come in. I received an email from the SBA that they are reviewing EIDL. How long might it take to get the call?
The idle loan, they're supposed to be done within weeks, but they've been so backed up with the overwhelming response that it's taking multiple weeks to hear, even more than that. So the best bet is, if you're still waiting to hear, is to contact their customer service number, 800-659-2955. And you can get more information. When you get a hold of somebody, you can ask to speak with your case manager and then find out where they're at in the process.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will leave this window open for a few more minutes to collect your feedback and anything that you want to let us know. Otherwise, I hope to see as many of you as possible over the next couple days and couple weeks as we continue to grow the program. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mark. I'll hop off now.
Thank you, Karen. Great job.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.